Good evening. I'm John Burkhart. I love you all. We are commanded by the Lord to love those who love us and love those who don't love us. We're commanded by the Lord to love everyone. And this evening we're going to be looking at love and seeing that it is forevermore. That we have a sense of everlasting life and everlasting memory. We have this weekend, it's called Memorial Weekend, which has something to do with memory, reminding us of people who have lived. And I guess it started about 160 years ago, and that we've had this great experience of Memorial Day, a day to hold in memory those who have died for this country. There's been best calculation looked like there's a little over 1,350,000 who have laid their lives down so that you and me can have this country. 1,350,000 young people have laid down their lives so that you and I can have this great America. And that's besides about another 40,000 people who are MRIs. In other words, we don't know MIA, missing in action. People that we just lost, and we never have a validation that they were killed or in prison or whatever happened to them. They just simply gone. So they are also lost in war. That's another 40,000. So you end up with almost 1,400,000 who have died for us. I guess you take the city of Lexington, and I guess less than a half a million, and you'd have to multiply that, by about 3. The whole city, if you imagine the whole city of Lexington being killed, and it'd be a horrible thing. If you imagine 3 cities of Lexington being killed, to give you some idea how expensive our peace is, how expensive this country is. It costs a lot of blood, a lot of suffering. Think of all the widows, think of all the mourning mothers, think of all the orphan children. Not just have these people made the ultimate sacrifice, but there's also their families, and ramifications of that loss is just enormous. And this has nothing to do with all those who are maimed in war. You can multiply this 1,400,000. You can multiply that by about 3 to give us some idea. People have lost their eyes, lost legs, are permanently maimed in one way or another, who maybe are laid up in a veterans memorial or veterans hospital for the rest of their lives. The expense of war is terrible. And any one of you, and I suspect many of you, have lost a loved one, and you know that having them come back in a box is just an absolutely terribly painful thing. And for this very reason, our country, many years ago, back in 1860-some, after the Civil War, that they decided that we need to have some kind of an annual remembrance of all of these thousands and thousands, over a million, almost 1.5 million of most young men who are in the ground and who are buried and who laid down their lives so that we can have this wonderful, wonderful country. So we show that appreciation, and we have that kind of memory. I think it's important for us to realize that most of us have short memories. We oftentimes talk about someone who is dead but not forgotten, gone or not forgotten. And that's not really very true. First thing you know, we're going to be gone. And in fact, there's been some survey and study made that people who are put in a grave, within 20 years, most of them will have no one to put a wreath or a flower or a flag or anything on their grave within 20 years. I've done a little study myself, walking through cemeteries, and you'll see that most of the graves have nothing on them any time of the year because they've been buried too long. Their children, their grandchildren are either deceased or moved off, and therefore there's no memory. I mean, they may still love them in the back of their mind, but there's a humanness about us, so we too are weak, we too are mobile, and we too die, I looked up this scripture passage here in the Psalms. It talks about, are the dead going to remember us? They've already joined us. They're already in eternity. They're not going to be back here putting flags on our grave. They're dead. And therefore, you think, well, I need to be remembered. I need to have people to love me and revere me. I need to have people to have some kind of remembrance so that I feel like I'm somebody. And so the scripture says, no one remembers you when he is dead. When who praises you from the grave? I'm laying in a grave. Somebody next to me is in a grave. Is he going to praise me? So there's something about, if we want recognition, if we want love, if we want to have a sense of belonging, if someone loves us and has a mind on us and cares about us forevermore, we know who that is. The one who loves us the most, the one who created us. Jesus says that he loves us with an eternal love that never will forget us. And we know in Scripture also tells us that even if a mother